Growing and evolving a company over 4 decades takes a lot of pivots. It doesn't happen easily. It happens probably through bloody knuckles. October of 2018. We're about 20 people, about 4 million in business. So a good, profitable, small business. And we were growing and looking to double down at that point. So I'm taking you to October 2018. This is a crazy story. We call it Bloody October. It was literally the worst business week of my life. It was terrible. And we had to say, all right, it's going to take a year to figure this out. And we kind of knew we had to do it. What we quickly realized, which it took us a year to figure it out, which could have taken us 4 months because we were hesitant.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, where entrepreneurs and business owners come together to power up on their journey to greatness.
Bobby Masha is the founder and CEO of Greenridge Wealth Planning. All opinions expressed by Bobby and his guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinion of Greenridge Wealth Planning. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast.
All right, guys. So today I have a gentleman here who's the youngest of 3, works with his 2 siblings, and is now the vice president of the family business. This gentleman's father passed away in 2021, and since then he's successfully transitioned the family business in the service and technology industry. He's the husband and father of 3 kids, got his purple belt in jiu-jitsu last year, so he likes to roll. He's a grappler. Mess some things up. We talked a little bit about golf being some of his passion, as well as coaching his kids. His father passed away in 2021. I look at what your background is, and I look at your history, and it's interesting how a lot of us share some of the same characteristics when going through a family business. But I'm looking forward to hear a little bit about not only your experience in the transition, but some of the things that you bring to your industry, to your team, and starting to learn just a little bit about how you tick. Today, I bring to you Vin Finaldi of TeleCloud.
I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
So welcome, buddy. Love to just kind of get into a couple of different things today. For me, and what I think the listeners will be most interested in, is we talk a lot about family businesses and I would say the different dynamics of being in a family business. Mm-hmm. And not only being in a family business, but then trying to transition into the leadership role. And, sharing some of those insights, but you've also transformed your business since your dad's passing. You've dealt through COVID. You made a big move. So, I'd love to find out a little bit about what you've been doing, how it's working. This podcast is all about how business owners, when other people see them, the other people typically go, oh man, look at him. He's got the sports coat, the beautiful family, lives in a great town in New Jersey. He's got it made. And they don't see the scars and the wounds and the blood that we leave on the concrete every day just to get to the point we're at. So, I think most business owners that we speak with, they talk about their failures, not as a point of failure, but more of, I learned that. I don't really constitute it as a failure. It's more of a pivot point to where I made a decision that we just needed to redirect or refocus.
For sure.
And, getting into some of that will be great. Anything else that you want to make sure that we touch on?
No, I think you hit it on the home. Any of the listeners, when it comes to first to second generational transfers of a business, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I have a lot of experience there. Growing and evolving a company over 4 decades takes a lot of pivots. And it doesn't happen easily. It happens probably through, bloody knuckles.
Well, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Give me a little indication. I mean, Dad
Sure.
left Ma Bell, started this company decades ago. Give me a little bit of the quick background on
Context,
you growing up, having this family business, how you got into it, and if we could take the first couple of minutes just to set the stage for what we're going to talk about in terms of what you're doing now.
Sure. So to paint a little bit of a picture on the business side, my father was a talented sales guy. So he worked for AT&T, where he got his roots in telecom and the sales profession. And he said he never wanted to leave because it was one of those blue chip jobs. Like, it's AT&T, and it's just like it is today. It's a lifelong career, but they wouldn't promote him. He was doing well with the sales goals and sales records, and his direct manager wouldn't promote him, and he was really insulted and frustrated. And the timing of this was interesting because in 1983, give or take, forgive me if I'm off by a couple months, but sometime in 1983, the government broke up the monopoly. That was AT&T. So this is before our time. But back then you could imagine only having one option with your phone solution, phone equipment, phone services, phone numbers, rates. There was zero competition. So the government opened it up. At the same time, he wanted to go off on his own. So he could become his own company, with a technician and staff, and you could sell phone systems to businesses in the tri-state area. So he did that from, the 80s to 2000. For 20 years, he did it on his own. He had no partners. And he had about 20 employees. So a very good, successful small business owner. But the technology started to get really intense. In 2000, and this is where it gets a little more into our generation, you had the Internet of Things started to become very real. Computer software, internet in the 2000s you had to pivot. So at that point, he brought in my older brother who has an engineering background, and that's what started their, kind of second generation early in his career. So,
and how much older is your older brother than
6
you?
years.
Okay.
So he's 6 years older. My sister's 3 years older, and I'm the youngest of three. So, classic youngest child syndrome.
We'll get into the therapy of that in a little bit.
So all those, funny.
Yeah, but in your world, everything's great.
Yeah. For a while there. So at this point, from the 80s to 2000, it was my dad running it, doing his thing, raising his family, which was us as kids. And then in the 2000s, a pivot was needed. We needed serious technological advances to stay relevant. So that kind of brings you into I joined in 06, right after college. So I had a marketing background, sales background. So I was coming to that end, and my brother was more of the engineering operational background.
Was that always in your vision, your dad's vision, for you to jump into the family business, or was it circumstantial? Did you just kind of
It was. It was. And to share, I don't want to use the word regret. It's a little too strong of a word, but to looking back on it, it would have suited me better to work for someone. You need the threat of being fired when you're 23 years old. So in all fairness, my father knew he had 5 to 7 years left in his gas tank. So he took me under his wing and taught me everything that he knew about business and sales and professionalism and how to treat customers and people. So I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, it would have helped if I got outside experience and brought it to the company, but that's okay. That was my path. So I joined the company at 23, just old fashioned sales. I'm talking sales from when you're the Zig Ziglar type.
So you're like a direct protege to your dad.
That's how it started.
He's the one who's kind of given you most of your early influence into the business.
I was popping Zig Ziglar CDs into my car. That level of salesmanship, 80s, 90s sales type, which still remains true today, even though we look down upon it.
Well, you'll still see his quotes all over the internet also. So,
Yeah. So I came from a time of business development, sales, where, you pick up the phone and you tell people how you can help them, and you knock on doors and you go to network meetings, the more traditional sales approach. Right. That I wouldn't say it's a dying profession, but it's certainly evolving.
Well, I think people have started to look at the psychology of their consumers a little bit differently.
Sure.
And the consumer is a lot more informed.
Oh, well said.
So as you start to look at how do you meet the needs or meet people where they're ready to purchase, it's a lot different.
You bring up a good point. So my kind of evolution as a professional, I recognized that pretty quickly. And so I got trained by a really interesting guy, Marcus Sheridan, he wrote a book called They Ask, We Answer. And it's a really simple concept, which is answer all the questions prospects and customers have, get it written on video or written in a blog, and share them with them. So it's a more education-based sale than, more of a 1-2 close, so to speak. So it's evolved in the better. So I've adapted to more of that mindset of education-based. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of attract who fits.
So you got into the business, worked under dad for a number of years. Mm-hmm. You were really focusing on just sales.
Sure. Yes.
And talk to me now about what the business looks like. I know you lost your dad in 2021.
Yeah. So what happened was I joined in 2006. So I ran it. I was more just I wasn't running the company from 2006 to 2012. I was I was selling and doing business development. So in 2013, the industry shifted where maybe you could appreciate this, where you had to adapt to the internet. It was no longer like, oh, we have to follow this trend. It's like, no, this is a must. So we were a project-based shop if we were going to continue down this road. So I'm grateful we did, because now it's, 5-6 years later, where we're better than we used to be. So now we have the platform and the skill to remain relevant in the post-COVID world, which is another animal.
What did you guys have to do in that moment of pivot? I'm assuming you weren't an overnight expert in this. What did it look like when you said, we need to do this? What are some of the biggest hurdles that you kind of had to get over, that you looked at and you were like, man, seems like Mount Vesuvius right now. We've got to get over this thing, but you got through it. And how'd you do that?
You have to hire the right people that understand that business. So the first 6 months, we were holding on to the old way. Like, we'll figure this out. We did it before, we'll do it again, but it was way more sophisticated than the first round. So hiring the right people for the transition, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And eventually you get to the point where, as a business owner, you have to bring in the right talent and people to do anything actually impactful.
But how many people do you know whose family business or have started their own business that they've learned that they have to be a little bit gritty? They've got to try to figure it out on themselves. And there's certain things that you can figure out for yourself, and there's certain things where you need to take a step back and you need to say, no, we need to hire the right people. I think that mindset shift happens to a lot, because you can't go into business or buy out your father or start your own business and say, okay, world is my oyster, man. I have enough cash most people don't have enough cash to do whatever the hell they want.
Correct.
So they have to deploy it really methodically.
That we fall into that category. There was no trust fund left.
But it's nice that it's nice that you were able to learn something came out of that as well.
Yeah. Anytime you go through pain, like your clients being down for a week or disrupted is massive pain in our industry. And, it's the equivalent of 2008 crisis for you guys. It's the equivalent. And, what you find is you learn the most when you suffer the most. At least that's how I am.
Yeah. When things are easy.
Yeah. You're making money.
You can afford to be a little complacent if you're not pushing yourself.
Sure. And when things are not easy, it forces you to either step up, because you have to, and put, I don't know if effort's the word, but maybe survival kicks in.
Is it weird that I enjoy those moments in life? Like, I feel like I'm alive. I feel like I'm my most creative.
That's wonderful.
When things are too easy. Do you ever feel that way, where things are too easy? It's just like you're waiting for the next shoe to drop. You ever feel like that?
Yes. If you go a couple of months and it feels easy, you're like, oh boy, something bad's about to happen.
So I'm not the only one.
No. We're like, it's too quiet right now. Something must be wrong. Yeah, I can relate to that.
So now you've got your own data centers that you run your services through.
Exactly.
And talk to me a little bit about, because I know you one of the things that you have brought up to me is the transition that you went through and having to go through some of the governance and the family roles. Talk to me a little bit about the family dynamic of this now.
Sure. So that's a great point. So we did a lot of things wrong, to be candid, with the viewers. Maybe they'll get something out of this. So what we did wrong was we didn't formalize things at first. So it was my father. When it's the father, it's a certain dynamic. Like, at the end of the day, he's your dad.
Your home dynamic leaches into that, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's your father. He can pull rank when he wants. I don't care. It's your father who raised you. So that translates a little bit into the boardroom, which is not always a good thing. So when he was done, it was more of all right, just make sure you pay me the real estate, for an indefinite amount of time. You guarantee us X, you guys can be partners, and good luck. So there wasn't a formality that I wish there was to protect my father and my mother first, and to transition myself and my brother and sister properly second, even if it was like vested over time. It was sort of an informal family handshake. But when something, when you have multiple families relying on a business, it's probably not the best approach. So while I'm grateful for my dad, it could have been handled differently. And then so me and my brother had to evolve. It's like
he was just ready to check out, and
he was done.
His mentality was, Vin, don't fuck it up like you did that lemonade stand when you were 12.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from our clients like I used to hear from your teachers when you were a kid. Really I'm trying to bring in that
No, it was
when you were a kid kind of mentality. It's no, we are a business. We have to operate like a business. But that wasn't happening.
There wasn't a formal structure, which in hindsight, I wish there was, first for my dad, not even for me.
How did that hurt you?
Because it was too loose. In the full transparency, I own 45%, my brother owns 45%, my sister owns 10%. So there was no buy-sell agreements. So now we're all married with kids. So you have, and it's not that you don't love or trust your family. People, God forbid, can die. People can get handicapped. People can get divorced. There was just no formality. So we had to do it after the fact. And it was a little more confusing because the governance wasn't set up day one. And that's okay. That was part of our journey. And then there was no true understanding of the differences between being an owner and the role in the company and a sibling. So think of like a triangle. You have family relationships, you have ownership, and you have the role in the business. And it was all really blurred for 5-6 years. And we've gotten more mature about it.
Blurred from the sense of everybody had the hats and it was just kind of grab whatever you can whenever you needed to get it. What did that look like?
So in any family business out there can relate. The lines get blurred. Like, what hat am I wearing? Am I Vincent, the employee that sells professionally? Am I the brother or am I the business owner? Mm-hmm. And all require different temperaments and different styles of communication. And a business to me is like a sports team. There has to be results. And the downside I see with family run businesses is that can to not run it like a sports team because it's family, but it doesn't translate well into success over the long period unless you approach that, put that into your mindset a bit and in a fair, equitable way saying, guys, this is how we operate when we're in the company.
What was the process that you went through to get from really having no architectural framework to now saying, hey, did you guys just sit down and go,
there was
this is not really jiving. It's not working. We need to figure this out. Was there an argument? Was there one party that was a little bit more, more forceful and guiding to getting this done? What did that look like?
It's a great question. So if I had to say what brought more attention to it, so me and my brother are running the company 2013, 2014. My sister plays a role on more support, administrative, but she was part of it. And so 2020, my dad got sick of November and passed away July of 2021. His death put more light onto it.
Okay.
Because when the patriarch leaves, like, anyone out there as a father, whether or not you work with them or not, the patriarch is a big deal in a family, just like a matriarch. And when he left, there was a lot of a little bit of confusion. Like, what are we doing with this thing? And it forced us to formalize. I guess what it does is it shows you our finality. Like, we're not going to morale. What's the word I'm looking for? Not
mortality.
Mortality. Thank you for helping me there. So, so you realize your mortality, and you're like, all right, our father passed, because we got to figure this out.
Did you feel like when Dad passed away, was there a moment where you just kind of said, holy shit, this is really ours now? Or did that happen when you?
No, that happened years ago.
Okay, so that wasn't like
he was by 2015, he had no effect on the business.
So it was really
there was no connection anymore.
So it was really just the mortality, the realizing, oh wow, we gotta put some guidelines on.
Yeah,
this.
and it makes you think of not to be heavy here, but when you have a widowed mother, you deeply care about her mental health and her comfort and love as a person. So it just forces you to be like, it kind of like it forces you to look at things like, was this planned as good as it could be? And it makes you just reflect of your own life. Like when you have kids, like, how do I want to handle it when my time comes?
So how do you want to handle it?
It's a good question.
Have you given any thought to it? I know the kids are young, but
my wife will probably outlive me by 20 years would be my guess. So
seems to be the trend anyway.
So that's good. That's a good question. I want to, okay, my goal would be at the end.
Like, do you ever think about your kids getting into the business, or is
No.
it just not, it's not even in the...
I don't think it's in the cards, because in fairness, you wouldn't know this yet. There's 10 of us. There's 10 grandkids. My brother has 4, my sister has 3, and I have 3, and they're 15 years apart. It just seems awfully complicated for an entrepreneurial small business, 20, 25 people. It's different, I think, if you inherit an enterprise. You could put people in a different department in a different state. But when it's small and scrappy, I don't see the formality working. Candidly.
It's definitely a lot harder.
Yeah, I think it's different. If I'm talking like, it's not the New York Jets. Like, it's not like, put them in the,
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? It's even anything under 10 million is so vulnerable.
Even at that point, the complexity gets hard unless you're actually putting a C-suite into place. To your point, if it's big enough to where there's a C-suite in place,
Sure,
and you're an owner and you find your role that suits your personality and your abilities. Like, I even look at, I have a couple businesses, right? I have a business with a partner. He's got kids. I have kids. Who's going to be coming to the business? How is that going to really be a dynamic here? I don't even look at my kids. My kids always say, Dad, I'm going to come work for you. Let's see where you shine.
Sure.
Go get your job,
Sure.
right? Work for somebody else. And then I'd almost rather help them figure out what their path is going to look like, help them build a business, be a consultant to them, than have them inherit something, because it does get messy when there's too many people involved.
Well, and I also think, looking back on it, look at the motivation. If the motivation is for the founder to feed their ego so they can go to lunch, be like, look at what I built, look at my children here, it's the wrong motivation. I'm in agreement. I think it's, as someone who is a part of a second generation business, there's a lot of upside, and you pour your heart and soul into it. Strictly from a mental health, family dynamic standpoint, you're best not doing it.
So you guys determine, okay, mortality, it's real. There is a moment in life where we will not be on this earth anymore. We should probably figure this out. What are the steps that you guys took to sit down and have the appropriate conversations that put you into a place that you are today?
No, that's a great question.
And then, give us an indication of what that process is and what it looks like.
So we did 2 things. The first was the legal side. Our counsel, Olander Feldman, we formalized the legal side of the house, which is the buy-sell agreements and protecting the shares from, God forbid, bad things happening. So you go through that side first, which isn't the soul. It's just like, the paperwork and the frame of protecting the business. The second part was it was a referral to a really nice man named Dr. Mark Celentano, who is, I would call him an organizational expert with a lean to family businesses. So we hired someone, and we parked our butts in a conference room for 20 hours. Like, it was an investment of time. And he helped us in, I think this is 2021, 2022, really put formal structure on optionality, roles.
Did you guys go through DISC assessments or Colby analytics, or did you go through where you guys really shine in your own abilities and try to do that fit? Or did he just sit down and say, all right, here's what your titles are currently. Let's divide and conquer? It's
a good question. It was a thoughtful, detail-oriented process. And what he did that I thought was really cool is he put out, there was the 3 of us with Dr. Mark and his coworker. So there's 5 of us in the room. And he laid out a bunch of puzzle pieces. And he's like, he didn't give us much direction. And he's like, I want to see how you guys go about solving the puzzle. So 10 minutes pass, we're getting impatient. We're like, all right, we don't really want to put a puzzle together. And at the end, he shined light. He's like, the 3 of you, how you went about that puzzle is probably how you about making business decisions together. And it was a really insightful process. So,
if you don't mind sharing, I'd love to get a peek at that. Be a fly on a wall to see how that.
So then you get into birth order. You have an older brother, Damon. You have a middle sister, Kara, and you have me, the youngest. And whether you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50,
you're the youngest.
It doesn't change.
That's right.
It just is what it is. So the process is kind of funny. We kind of I'll throw out an idea and I'll be like, Dame, what do you think? And Kara will be like, Dame, what do you think? It's kind of like the 2 younger siblings were basically looking at the older brother. So what do we do here? How do you want to approach this? And Dr. Mark was like, is that how you guys solve business problems? And we kind of chuckled and we're like, maybe. And it was just a good process. It shed some light on it. And the more important thing isn't just to like have a cute little sibling experience. It's really like, who the hell do we hire to fix like inherently how we behave? And you want to plug in the right talent and people to complement your strengths and make up for your weaknesses.
How many external people did you have to bring into the fold to feel like you had the rounded out team?
It's good. So we're 20 people. We did 4 strategic hires in the last 2 years, which at 20 people is a lot. You know, when you think about it from that standpoint, it's not a lot in the scheme of life, but for us it is.
No, proportionally, it's.
So the last 2 years we've been grinding, and it's been our jokingly, it's like going through the sludge. Like sometimes it's not inspirational. It's not like you wake up in euphoria. It's just you wake up and you get the work done, and it's a little bit of a grind, and you have to get it done. So while we're running the business, we're adding and top grading some people. And it really was started from that, I would say, Dr. Mark meeting of like, guys, this is like who you are as an ownership group. And if you're going to, do this thing for 10 more years and grow, like.
Now, how does it feel to wake up and go to work now? What's the difference
oh my God,
between prior and after?
So much better. We went from having some players on the team that weren't a good culture fit to a lot of things being on Zoom. It was like that post-COVID running remotely, and I'm an extrovert. My brother's an extrovert. So after you do like internal calls on video, like working remotely for a year, it gets pretty draining, and like it saps the soul out of an organization. So we hired people that wanted to be in an office, even if it's 3 to 4 days a week. We do a hybrid approach. So we got some younger talent in, energy, enthusiasm coming into an office in Morristown off the green. And we're still like modern. We still do the remote work stuff when it's appropriate. Fridays we do remote work, and people need flex, so be it. And it's so much better now than it was 3 years ago. Infinitely.
Where do you think you'd be if you didn't make that change?
Probably just less happy. Probably just kind of like sticking to that remote work model, which, the bigger macro issue is businesses there's like a line, and you're like, all right, to the right is rigid, like it used to be, like coming to the office 5 days a week, 8:30 to 5, check in, check out. That's like the rigid old school model. Then you have this flexible model, which is like everything's remote. We don't have an office. Everything's done over Teams and Zoom. And then it's too flexible, because you're like, who's working, who's not? I don't know if someone's walking their dog or on a client call. Like, what's going on? So I think there's just beauty in the middle. Like, guys, we're going to work hard, but if you need some flex, like, take it. And I'm enjoying the like 2024 version of like a common sense approach to the business work-life balance.
Now, how has your role changed from before to currently today?
I mentioned the hiring. So now it's more important, I've always been an individual producer. So I've always been good at, targeting certain clients.
But that's your superpower. Your superpower is going
win
out,
new business,
talking about your value prop and getting people to say, I like you. I like what you're doing.
I could benefit from that. So
let me jump on.
So historically, I've been an individual producer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But an individual producer has a certain like almost selfish mindset. Like, I'm going to win. And, it's sort of like your own island. But now with the hires, we have we have a marketing hire, a sales hire. I have to take more of a management mentorship approach, which is very fulfilling, because then you could transfer knowledge and then help people grow. As I'm getting older in my career, you help someone out and make them better at their job.
So what does the growth pattern look like for you guys when you guys sit down and you talk as a leadership team now, not just family, but some of the strategic hires that you made? What's the conversations on? Here we are today. This is what we want this to look like in 12, 24, 36 months.
No, that's a great question. So we simplified it to this line. Our goal is to give context. We sat through we run EOS, Entrepreneur Organizational System, and then you run a quarterly and you go over your vision traction organizers. It's what's your 1 year, 3 year, 10 year. So our 3 years to have 30,000 subscribers with 30 team members growing and having fun. So for us, that's like a 3X. So in 3 years, it's like a 3X approach from a revenue and team size standpoint. So it can be inspiring for your staff, inspiring for yourself. I hate all the acronyms like BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious Goal.
Audacious Goal, yep.
It's kind of like, it's a big vision, which would really excite us and the people who work for us, because people want to be a part of something that's exciting and growing.
So
No one wants to work for a stagnant company.
You know, what's interesting is, you know, a lot of people, they kind of go and they do their own thing, right? They figure out what their goal is going to be, and then they maybe prescribe to something like an EOS or a strategic coach, or name your one of, 50 different platforms that you could jump on. And really all it is it's a way just to keep you accountable, give you some framework and give you some targets to reach to. Because otherwise, to like your comment that you made before, right? You feel like you're in the sludge, you're moving. And what would life be like if you were back where you were and you didn't make any changes? Well, we'd just be pushing through. It's almost that way to say, how do I step out of it? And instead of pushing through, let me create some sort of an environment to where everybody's moving the ball forward at the same momentum, with the same energy, with the same conviction, so that this way I don't feel like I'm trudging in the mud.
No, well said. So about a year and a half ago, we really started to revisit culture and bringing in the right people. And you have to enjoy the people you work with too. It can't just be work. So you do some cool events, whether it's in Morristown, grabbing a lunch or dinner, or go to a comedy club. We're legitimately prioritizing the health of the organization, like beyond just the work. And people just need to know you really care about them and their family, and you do things that are, show people you really care.
Was there anything that sparked that mindset for you? Was there something that you did where you're like, you know what, this is where we need to focus our energy and efforts? Or did it just kind of come naturally over time?
I mean, without naming names, we had, and anyone could appreciate this who runs a business. We had someone in a key role that got the work done, but culturally did not give a damn. Like, the person was, the work got done, the customer's happy, what's the issue? And internal health took a hit. And we're like, listen, if it's only about the work, let's just go to all being W-9 contractors and we'll just send you tasks over a software. So like,
poisonous.
Yeah. And it sucked the soul out of the organization for a good year. And all I can say is customers come and go, and you want to keep customers forever, but let's face it, they do come and go. But internal health is like just paramount. It's like just as important, if not as important, as the revenue coming in from the customer. Because an internal healthy team will always find a way.
What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Did they leave? Did they get fired? Did something happen internally? What was the situation that really, truly...
Over 3 years, we lost 3 good employees. And we're like, why are we losing good people? And, when you look under the hood, there was not attention from us, specifically, I'll be accountable. There was not enough attention of the internal health of the business. It was more like, just get the work done. And so after you have talented people that take another gig and, not even for more money, just for a better opportunity, or could be for more money. But that was like, we can't run a company and lose staff. Like, it doesn't work. You're just on a perpetual treadmill. And so I'm happy to be on this show. If you put me on last 2 years ago, I might be like, I got a lot of work to do. So I'm happy to talk about this more historical past tense, because it's really hard when you're going through it.
Well, there are times, and I know I've been through it in my career. I know that other people have been through it in their careers, where they look at it not like they're running a sports team, like you mentioned before, but rather like they're running a game. Well, we won the game. Now we got to win the season. And it's like, no. We've got to create and promote and start to build and recruit the right people, because as somebody gets injured or someone ages out of their position, if we don't have that depth chart, we don't have the mechanism that lures in the best people, we're just going to be good for this moment, but we're going to eventually fizzle.
No, that's a very wise statement. I completely agree.
Well, it was basically just summarizing what you said.
Yeah. So I'm in agreement. Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the things that you have in your sights now over, when you look forward and you say, okay, we've got EOS, we're running, we've got our rocks, we're moving the ball forward. We hired a really good, really good support staff to keep this thing rocking and rolling. Sounds like you have started to make some really, really good and mature business decisions, what are some of the things that are still kind of on the horizon that you look forward to and you're setting up the building blocks to get to?
It's a good question. I'll start with the personal stuff first because my kids are 6, 4, and 2. It's fun to watch them grow and get older. So I'm very excited to when you have a 2 and a 4-year-old, they're like little puppies. Like, what are they going to be? Like, you know what I mean? So I'm excited for that. So that gives us a lot of joy and energy to watch their evolution. And on the business side, the world of tech services is anything but stagnant. Like, it's not a boring standstill industry. So on the business side, there's so much opportunity. It's overwhelming. And I hate to use the buzzword AI, but it's very real. Where I'll give you, for instance, so the number one software used on the planet Earth is Office 365, Teams. There's like 360 million subscribers. Anyone using Teams could see a voice calling application. So you have, over the next 5 to 10 years, I can only imagine how many millions of subscribers are going to move to Teams calling. So we're very well suited to provide that service for the small business client. So we're staying really ahead of the trends of where is this thing going. And at our core, we're like, hey, we install hardware on the desk. We install phones. That's crap. And so you have to get really, really good at change management and software calling applications. And so when I see the world, so to give you, not to be too much in the specific in the industry, but Microsoft has AI Copilot. So you have Copilot, and then within Teams, there's going to be email, calendar, text messaging, and phone calls and video calls. All that data is going to get aggregated through Copilot. So small business owners, managers, anyone who needs data will get aggregated information on the company and employee level to such a degree it could radically improve client services in a business. So it's really kind of wild what's coming out from it. I've never seen it to this degree of the tools are just kind of mind blowing compared to like a traditional, what most businesses have, especially on the small side. Businesses under 150 users are typically a little intimidated by it, and they're going to be able to get like enterprise level technology for like affordable costs.
It's interesting because when we go into the AI platform, I think you have a lot of people who are really excited about the advent of this technology and having all these things at their fingertips. And then you have the other people who are saying, yeah, as great as it's going to be, we're still a long way. Sure. Where do you think we are on that AI curve and the adoption rate? And, when do you see that retrieval of data, that full automation, that being able to kind of, get from where you are to what you were just discussing? What's that time frame?
Decade.
You think a decade?
Well, I think there's going to be early adopters, which is like now, but from mass adoption and people understanding how to actually use it, 5 to 10 years.
What are you doing to help your clients just understand and think about the evolution so this way you're ahead of their curve?
Sure. So we joined a couple strategic partnerships in the industry. Cloud Alliance is one. Other is Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, New Jersey, we're part of. And you really have to figure out how it applies to you and how you could benefit your staff and your customers with it. AI is just a buzzword, but it's like, how do we become more efficient, more profitable? And it's
AI is the way to say a concept that covers 1,000 different ideas falls under AI.
Yeah, I think like the routine tasks will be lifted off of us. Things we do now that probably take time that are kind of redundant and boring, I think will get removed with AI.
What do you think is going to be more impactful? 10 years when that happens, or in 2000 when the internet really became that kind of next level? Let's call it 2005 when the iPhone was introduced and the internet was 10x.
Sure. Well, from what I've been told from the pundits and gurus is it's like AI is the next biggest thing since the adoption of the internet. So what it looks like, I don't know yet. It's too far out there for me, There's thought leaders on it, but as people, we're just all figuring this out.
Yeah.
But I do agree. So I think to answer your original question, like where's your business going? You have to bring in those tools to businesses that make them run better companies. And people you'll always have a customer if you improve their business.
Now you mentioned hiring the right people. Have you started to look at the next hire for that segment of your business?
So it's an interesting,
Or is that still premature?
Good question. So to be transparent, we can't just go out and buy a 6-figure AI researcher. It's just not practical in our budget and our size. But there's an interesting model called a reverse mentor. So we're seeking actually an internship for, think of a young college man or woman that is studying computer engineering at FDU, Drew, whatever local university. And you hire them for reverse mentorship where you pay them as an internship and they bring you all their AI research. And it's just an interesting concept because it's affordable and you could have research done for your company on like what AI tools will help us internally and externally. So we're actually in the process of doing that.
That's interesting. What turned you on to that idea?
I got to give my brother credit on this one.
The older brother. What do we do here?
He said reverse mentor. And it was a cool concept. I think he learned from, I don't quite know where he got the term from, but I swiped it. Steal with integrity.
I love it. Hey, listen,
swipe.
You got to stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm sure he stole it from somebody else and that person probably stole it from somebody else as well.
So one of my business coaches said, swipe it. I'm like, what's swipe? He goes, steal with integrity, purpose, and enthusiasm.
Ooh, I like that.
So swipe it. That's all we're doing.
Swipe it is a great way to kind of pivot into what are 3 of the things that if you were to rewind the clock, learning them today, you would have made sure that you taught your younger self to do this, to move you faster and further ahead of the curve?
Good question.
Everybody likes 3s. Everyone,
okay.
It's the power of 3s.
All right. I'll be,
we swipe in 3s. No.
So the first thing I would tell my younger self is short answer is schedule time, thinking time. Like it's okay if you're not going out on a weekend. Just schedule yourself quiet thinking time and think about your life and where you think it should go. So just be a little more thoughtful. In your 20s, you're all piss and vinegar. You don't think, you just go.
You just go.
So I would have said, be a little more thoughtful with your thinking time, a little more up the analytical, reduce the energy. The second thing I would tell my younger self, for me personally, party less. Like it's okay to go out and have a good time. I'm talking about 20s.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out every weekend. You don't, there's no FOMO. Like I would say to my younger self, do more adventures. Like go to new places or do like something challenging physically, like an Ironman or jiu-jitsu competition, like increase the physical challenges and decrease the going out just to go out because you get into a habit.
It's amazing how as we get older, we start to realize that not only is time finite, but our ability to do those things.
Yeah. So
because I would say the same thing that
like at 25.
Now you just gave me something to go tell my younger self because I would give the same advice.
Yeah.
That's
like,
great.
and you're normal, you're young, single, you're an extrovert, you want to go out, but it's like, hang on, you should think a little more where you want your life to go in 10 years. And you should probably go out, I didn't say 0%, just cut it back by 25%.
No, but to your point, experiences.
Yeah.
Go to the places that you would normally
do something
go.
interesting. You have all this time. You don't have a wife and kids. Like, trust me, when that happens in a business, you could afford Europe. You just have no time to go.
That's right.
And then the last piece of advice, I would say something in the terms of think long-term with relationships, like really lean into relationships and separate yourself, like really care about people. Like don't have such like surface level relationship, like lean in. Like if you have a relationship and someone's father passes, go to their funeral or their mother. Like, you know what I mean? Do the things that create long lasting relationships. And because you could build a really good life personally and professionally if your rapport with someone exceeds just, one coffee one time.
I get really impressed with younger people that exude those types of characteristics. You know that they are showing up. They're not just meet and greet and transactional in their relationships. It's they show up above and beyond, and that isn't something that I appreciated until I got older. Also,
same here. So that's what I would tell my younger self. Those 3 things.
That's awesome, man.
Which I'll tell my kids,
sharing.
and they'll probably ignore me, but I'll try anyway.
You got to write them down. You got to keep a journal of all the things that, You ever see the movie with Michael Keaton where he knows that he's going to die? I think he's passing from cancer, and he does the video for his was it the unborn son or the just born son?
I didn't see that one, but
and he's got himself shaving and he's talking in the video and teaching him how to shave. It's almost like you got to think about the things when you have kids that if you're not around to share with them, how do you leave that legacy?
no, well said.
But all right, man. Appreciate your time. How do our last words to leave? How do our viewers find you?
Sure.
And we'll also have them in the notes, so this way they can just click on the links and leave us with that.
Yeah, I have a personal website, vincentfinaldi.com, which covers some things that interest me personally and professionally. And my business is TeleCloud in Morristown, New Jersey, and we're all over the internet and transparent to everyone.
All right, check this guy out. He's very interesting. He's got a great business that's going on. And dude, I really appreciate you coming on and
Thank you.
appreciate your insights. And until next time.
Thank you.
All right, guys.